I've sung the praises of Made In Cookware for a while now. I own many pieces myself. Now Made In has changed nonstick cookware for good with their ceramic-clad pans. They're premium stainless pans with next-gen ceramic coating free of harmful materials. Beautiful, even cooking, and easy to clean. It's even oven safe up to 550 degrees. How do I know how great they are? I added one to my kitchen. Don't need a nonstick pan? Made In has pots, cutlery, bakeware, glassware, and everything you need. Take your home cooking to the next level by upgrading your cookware by going to unitedwedrink.com/madein, MADEIN. Find out why pros trust Made In. Go to unitedwedrink.com/madein and upgrade your kitchen and cooking today. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, co-workers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour? More like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another new episode of the United We Drink podcast right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich, and I'm trying out to be the Micro Machine Man back from the 1990s. This is about as fast as I can really talk. He has been mentioned on this podcast before, someone killed him. I don't remember who, but someone said that he was dead, and he was not. So apologies to him. As you heard, Tim is back from his correspondence duty on the New Mexico Hot Air Balloon Festival, and Kevin Abbott is here as normal.
I really want to hear about this festival. He's muted, so he can't. He's holding out on us until later on in the episode.
Well, no, I mean, anything that I would say would be full of hot air.
And
if you could edit in a slow clap or a sad trombone, I would appreciate that.
We are happy to have it back.
Wait, hold on. I was
gonna say there we go.
And there's even a graphic on the screen. I mean, the world we live in, gentlemen. The fact that we can just have that there and everyone can just be sad.
I was just really hoping we could be morning Radio Zoo and just do nothing but fart noises. That was actually pretty perfect timing. Somebody sat on a duck. Yes, I'm back. Gentlemen, thank you very much for holding down the fort while I did go out on assignment. Listen,
I mean, it was very easy to hold it down. No one is trying to take this fort by force or otherwise.
They're like, you can keep it. You can keep the fort. No one needs to be there.
I tried to give it away last week, and no one wanted it.
It's like a conservative in a small town Walmart who doesn't feel safe without a gun. You're not under attack.
So, what are we drinking tonight, guys? Kevin?
I am drinking a brand new beer for us that is actually, as of this episode recording, not come out yet, called Pacific Edge. It is a West Coast style Pilsner. This is a beer that I think it started with Ralph at the brewery. He really wanted to make a West Coast style Pilsner. And I was just looking to do something that was hoppy in the lager field. And, I tried it in the tank and I was like, yeah, this is good. And I was like, kind of happy with it. When I tried it in the can, when it was a finished product, I freaking love this beer. It is. I say this very often, and Mike might get this. I feel like my beers are now like the Dave Meltzer star rating, where I have to just keep adding stars instead of just saying like this is a 5-star beer, and every beer that's a 5-star beer is great, and you don't have to rank them. I keep going, well, this is just better than that. So I always say, oh, this is my top
6.5.
Yeah, but this really is in the pantheon of barrel amongst beers. I do think it's in the upper echelon of the beers we've ever made. It's just really clean. It's a perfect. As far as lagers go, it's crisp. It's clean. There's no imperfections whatsoever. The hop presence is nice. The bitterness is really, really well integrated. It's got some good fruit flavor in there too. A little tropical fruit to go on with the citrus. I don't know why I'm selling this beer to anybody because none of you will ever taste it. It's a tap room only in Boca, and none of you live in Boca that are listening to this. Maybe one or two people. But anyway, it's really, really good, and I'm really proud of it. I think Ralph did a great job.
Hoppy lagers are like one of my favorite things. So German pilsners are always up my alley. West Coast pilsners, New Zealand pilsners. I love when there's a good hoppy character to a lager. So I'll have to try to get myself some of those. Tim, what are you having?
So I'm drinking two things right now. I went back to the garage beer, and I went with their lime. Uh,
I haven't had the lime one yet.
it's nice. It's not over aggressive lime. It's certainly probably a lot more lime than a normal kind of, craft beer nerd would like. But I don't know. I was leaning towards almost going for something more seltzery, more, light, refreshing type of thing going on. But I still wanted a little bit of something beer related. Um, it's not, so it's April in Minnesota, which means that we've had 3 fake springs. And we're probably somewhere in the middle of our 4th fake spring. So I'm still like, my mind's on getting on the lake, getting the fishing rod out, things like that. So I wanted something that was a little bit more refreshing. So I'm drinking the garage beer, classic lime, and I actually got myself a little bit of Jim Beam. It had been a while since I'd had Jim Beam, and I remembered that I actually really genuinely enjoy Jim Beam, so I thought I'd sip on that along with the lime.
Nice.
I agree. Very nice.
I am having Boulevard Dark Crater, a whiskey barrel aged Doppelbock. I was at the Total Wine in Boynton Beach today and found a lot of out of code beer. I meant to send you guys some screenshots of stuff that was made in 2023 and 2024. But there was a variety 6-pack from Boulevard, which I believe Kevin talked about before on a pack that was like a Neapolitan one. This was this beer, the barrel-aged Doppelbock, a barrel-aged Irish stout, and then it was like a barrel-aged blended ale that was like a blend of multiple different barrel-aged beers. And I was like, for a 6-pack of barrel-aged beers for $20, sure, I'll do that. So having that, and then have a Shiner Bock like I had last week to go behind that. I'm trying to think colder weather with my my drinks. Like, it's starting to warm up here. It's been very humid and rainy the last few days, so I'm not liking that we're getting summerish weather lately, and I'm trying to think cooler weather with my beverages tonight.
Gentlemen, you know that you are welcome anytime in Minneapolis when you would like to escape the hellscape that is a Florida summer. You can come just enjoy less alligators, more mosquitoes the size of alligators. So come on up.
We
We have mosquitoes the size of alligators
Yeah.
too. Do not think we'd lack those.
No, that is fair.
Don't insult.
But
Listen, you can insult the people all you want. Don't insult our mosquitoes.
hey, I will tell you one thing that Mike and I were talking about earlier this week that we do have here in Minnesota is dozens of ball diamonds where the 3 of us can go try to hit dingers and field grounders and just play some little league baseball, the 3 of us on an open field that we don't have to try to sneak onto.
So I got the perfect thing. Mike and I jump on a flight to your neck of the woods, right?
Yeah.
We try to beat Boggs on that flight. Okay.
Jesus.
We get off, and very much like Mac and Charlie, right? Now you have to drink a significant amount in anticipation of us. I would imagine maybe on the field itself,
Yeah.
and then I will I will recreate Charlie in California, USA.
I think that is.
I'll wear the plain white shirt that will mark them on.
It'll be fun. The nice thing is I do live close to where you guys will be taken when you're arrested immediately upon landing at MSP Airport.
I was saying to Tim about this, Kevin, because he sent me this video about like dudes just getting together and playing ball with like no real like not competitively, just getting together, snagging pop flies, trying to hit dingers, like, and I was like, that sounds like so much fun, except for the fact that around me, every baseball field is under lock and key. You cannot just go onto a baseball field in a park here. They are all locked. You'd have to jump a fence and you would be trespassed if they find you on it. So, like, just completely insane. But I don't know if it's any different around you with that.
We can get onto them. I've taken Jad to a couple fields near us during the daytime, and they're not under lock and key every day. You do run into the fact that there's almost always a travel team or someone practicing on that field that is supposed to be there. So there is a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, you can get on some baseball diamonds in Boca, in West Boca, and stuff like that for sure.
I'm pretty certain. I don't know if you guys have seen the Twins attendance. I'm pretty sure we could just walk right on a Target field. I don't think anyone is there.
Hi, I'm Cody Clemens. Yes, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no one knows what Cody Clemens looks like.
Roger Clemens doesn't even know what he looks like, and he's his kid.
I played on Target Field the day after the All-Star game, and it was literally only the teams that were playing, and I still think the attendance was larger than the last Twins game.
Well, listen, Jad has been more and more interested in like practicing away from baseball practice, which is I love doing. So we spend at least a half an hour almost every day playing catch out front, and the joy but a lot of this joy is just playing catch with my son. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not discounting the fact that just catching a baseball and like getting myself in throwing position and just rediscovering that muscle memory is just so joyous. I mean, it really does. One, it takes me back and gives me nostalgia. Two, it also confirms that I'm not a decrepit old man just yet. Like I haven't hurt myself. It's really kind of good. It's kind of fun. So yeah, getting together and doing that with people would be just lovely. I would. I would love it.
No, I was telling Mike, it was just my friends lived literally across the street from a ball diamond outfield, went over the railroad tracks, and we would just grab a rack of hams and a couple of ball gloves, and one person would pitch and one person would swing and one person would shag flies as we tried to hit dingers, and we just, any of the balls that you could just find along the fence line or whatever, we would just gather into a 5-gallon bucket and just take them out there. And man, taking a Saturday afternoon with you two fine gentlemen and just doing something stupid like that would be great.
I actually, like the opposite of Kevin, felt a little decrepit last week throwing the ball with one of my boys, because I was like, he got like a new ball and bat, like that my wife caved and got him when she took him to the sporting goods store, because she needed to get boxing gloves. She's doing a kickboxing class, and Bruno was like, I want a new bat and ball. And he came home with a bat and a ball and a helmet. And like, so this ball that he has stitches on it. So I'm like trying to get rotation on it while I'm throwing it, just for my own enjoyment.
You're trying to spin it to him?
Yeah. And like I threw one and I was like, "Ooh, I felt a little weird in my arm." I'm like, "I got to stretch before I like stretch out my arms a bit before I'm
It,
throwing balls with him now."
it probably doesn't help that Bruno was looking at the ABS and challenging everything you threw.
No, that kid swings at everything. He like
Oh
he
boy, after
is
my own heart.
So he's
he
Javi
is Nick
Baez.
Castellanos.
Yeah,
Uh
Baez Castellanos. Listen, I do want to say, and at the risk of doing too many "It's Always Sunny" references, make that a rack of hams and some rum ham, and
Oh yeah.
it would be an even better time.
We will do that, and then I will make sure there's a milk steak going when we get back to the house. So, guys,
it,
we are not. I don't know if you guys know this. We are not a baseball podcast.
That's true.
I don't.
yet.
I would wager
Still
that.
working on it.
Well, at this point, since we are slowly, due to attrition, getting out of the industry, and Mike, we can get into that. We might eventually turn into a baseball podcast. But we should probably get to the
The
topic
topic of the day.
yeah, or topics or tropics, the Flint
So
tropics, corn dogs, Jackie.
I think that the first thing that we need to do, because you weren't here for the last episode, is get some of your perspective on unrealistic expectations in the industry. Was
Unrealistic
there anything that we said
expectation.
that you strongly felt against? Or is there anything that you think we didn't say that jumped out as you at you as something that is very unrealistic from the perspective of any cog within the beer biz?
No, I so first of all, I really appreciated the candor from both of you. Um, Mike talking about how he drank the Kool-Aid about how craft beer could be 25% of the beer market. I still kind of believe that it could, if you took out all of the ego within craft beer. And I think that's one of the bigger problems. And Kevin, your
By the way,
perspective
the
from
Kool-Aid man just smashed through your wall, Tim.
and Kevin, you as an owner and talking about how you came into your marriage promising that you were going to be a billionaire. I thought was a beautiful comment. No, I really genuinely thought you guys covered great ground. You said a lot of the things that I wanted to say. You even spoke for me. Uh, and very correctly what I would have said. I know I only ever say like three things, but I say them 27 times on this podcast. So I appreciate that you guys have listened at least one of those 27 times and reiterated it. But you did speak for me, and I was very grateful for that. It did make me feel heard. So that was a very warm feeling in the cockles of my heart. One thing I think that I really wanted to maybe just reiterate um, is that the unrealistic expectations in beer. Um, God, I hate to blame the consumers. Um,
We didn't.
I don't.
well, okay, but here is what I would say is there's not been an industry that I can think of that has exploded in quite the way that has been so consumer driven. And by consumer driven, I don't mean consumers caused owners to behave a certain way, but that consumers became owners. That we joke all the time that like, oh, just because you make a good ham sandwich doesn't mean you should open up a deli. But in the craft brewing industry, I think one of the things that made it such an seed bed for unrealistic expectations is that it was a bunch of these people. And it's just it has to do with the immaturity of the industry as a whole, right? Like when I get outside of craft brewing and I get into actual like real food and beverage regulations and the things that really need to go on and the way that we behave in the craft brewing industry versus just the beverage industry, we're so immature, and we so act like amateurs, and it's so many times, like, I'll look at somebody's Instagram videos of their canning days, and I'm like, "Oh my god, you're doing this wrong, and this wrong, and this wrong, and this wrong, and this wrong." But to them, they're just showing off what they're doing for canning, and they're so proud of it, and they're so bragging, and so all of this. It was so many of these people who didn't know what they were doing that got into this industry because it was so young and naive and innocent.
Try to find a pair of safety glasses on any of those people.
Find a fucking hairnet. Like literally, you can't even walk into a facility without a hairnet or a beard net. Um, and I know craft breweries that do it, but I'm willing to bet you guys have never worn a hairnet or a beard net for a canning day. And I like my friend Dickie, used to always do it, and he used to always be appalled that we didn't at other breweries. But just even some of those kind of those basic things that we take for granted, um, I think contributes to the unrealistic expectations because you've got a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing, who did it for 10 years and still don't know what they don't know. But because they got away with doing it wrong for 10 years, they now think of themselves as the veterans for this industry. And like, I mean,
That
people
is
that
kind
work
of
for,
scary.
but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like people who have worked for craft brewing for 20 years, that would get like scolded their first day at AB. But they've owned their own brewery for 20 years. They've gotten away with shitty food safety practices, shitty regulatory practices, all of those things. They're now the coaches and mentors to everyone else. And so I think that just exacerbates the unrealistic expectations in a way that it really truly became a anybody can do this type of thing. And I don't want to shit on craft like home brewers who went pro or anything like that. Like that's how I came through. I mean, I did go to brewing school, but that and $5 will get you a half a gallon of gas in this economy. But I like I think the thing that we just have not fully appreciated is that the what makes it so unrealistic is the naivete because even the veterans are amateurs, if that's a fair way of putting it. Kevin, you're giving me a puzzled look, but I feel like you agree, but you still feel confused.
No, I'm not confused. So Tim was off the show and maybe even on it. I can't remember, but Tim, you said some very nice things about the show, even though you weren't on it. And I can't believe we had that episode without you because you have made 2 points in this very short time that I cannot believe we did not touch on. And I cannot believe one of the things that you do that you are so good at is really sparking not just the points that you make, which are always very poignant, but also I very often feel that there's a great jumping off point of a lot of the things that you say that really get me thinking about things in a different way. And obviously Mike does that too. But that I think that's what one of the great things about our dynamic. Anyway, that's masturbatory. What what you said about being a veteran in this industry, the first thing I thought was that's me. In many ways, if I were to be in any kind of managerial role or even a production role at Sierra Nevada, they would be appalled probably by the practices that I am used to because I am 100% self-taught. And and by the way, I do think one of my favorite things that ever happened to me was former podcast host with us, Joel Codner, when he first came into our brewery, he said I could eat off these floors. And I could not believe that I was in as clean a brewery when I ran that brewery. And for till my dying day, I will take that as one of the best compliments ever because that's the way I ran my brewery. Now, by the way, we were doing 1,000 barrels at that time per year. It was pretty easy. It wasn't easy. I worked my ass off, but it's very different when you're making a lot more beer and you have a lot more complications. I no
Mhm.
doubt. But I did a lot of things, detail-oriented things that I really wanna push with my guys and that I would push with anybody. but hairnets and beard nets, I never even thought about it. Not
Mhm,
once until you mentioned
mhm,
it. Like,
mhm,
I would be an amateur in so many other spaces in my industry, and yet I talk with authority. And I do think I have some good ideas, but I have to check myself regularly. And when you make that comment, Tim, it's very important because it serves that purpose. And I know you guys might want to comment on that too, but I can't lose this train of thought. You mentioned how related to the expectations and just the industry in general, you have all these people who were home brewers who made a good ham sandwich and thought they could run a deli, right?
mhm,
And the immaturity of the market. And then I was kind of connecting the dots in what I actually see in craft beer. You had the home brewer who thought they could own a brewery. Then you had the people who knew nothing about beer but thought they could make $1 million.
mhm,
And I don't think we've graduated to the next level,
mhm,
which is people who have a concept and the finance and some kind of vision and some kind of expertise to put it all together.
mhm,
And I think that maybe 0.1% of the breweries that are being opened now are in that vein.
mhm.
And maybe that is the best representation of the immaturity of our industry. Now, listen, restaurants are very similar. There's tons of people opening restaurants that I'm going to make my grandma's meatballs and I'm going to be great. So it's not like we're a anomaly, but it, I've seen it both happen and both those models. I love beer and I make a great IPA and everyone thinks that I should sell it. And I've got a lot of capital and I can buy a big warehouse and sell beer. Fail over and over again. There's got to be some combination of that passion and that money and adding some expertise that maybe this industry really needs.
Well, and you're right, it does happen in the restaurant, but the difference is we still have this whole legacy of chains and experienced restaurateurs and all of that that are helping to call out the bullshit, right? Um, we'll get into this eventually, and maybe this is why we're getting into the space. We'll get into this what observation Mike made about the very small number of breweries that are dominating craft selection these days. But I don't even know if they're even necessarily helping to call out the bullshit, right? Like, yeah, I'm making mom's meatballs, but a lot of those restaurants fail, right? And a lot of, and a lot of those people that'll work, like, that go there don't want to go work there, right? But you probably have a lot more experienced chefs saying, "I don't want to go work at that fucking bullshit place," than you have experienced breweries that are brewers that are going out. Like, it's still, and I'm not saying everyone who works in a kitchen goes to culinary school, but it's still a very
There hasn't been a huge reckoning of like outing bad like ownership, I feel like in brewing, like
but
we've
also
seen in restaurants over the last maybe year or two.
like expertise, right? Like there have
Yeah.
been a number of like, I don't want there to fucking be a Gordon Ramsay of brewing. I don't want there to be celebrity brewers like there are celebrity chefs. But at the same time, fuck, man, Josh Wiseman
So
on YouTube is teaching people how to be better home cooks. You don't have even that equivalent on the brewery level. And so, like, the industry's so rife with old wives' tales and rife with really bad practices. I mean, there are things I'm learning in the consumer packaged good non-alcoholic space. I'm learning from our chemical vendors and other suppliers that support like and we're not small, right? We do thousands of barrels a day in coffee. We distribute nationally. We are in large chains, but we're still like tiny when you think about like the large global international food manufacturing brands. But I'm still learning things daily that I think shit, we're doing a lot better than all any brewery I've ever been to, and we're still fucking amateur compared to like food manufacturing. And so when I look at getting out of the brewing industry, but still in the beverage manufacturing space, hasn't made me appreciate brewing. If anything, it's made me uh, it's almost devalued the expertise of the people I thought were experts, which it's sort of sad to say, but it's also sort of true. And so, again, to tie that back to unrealistic expectations is, it's already an issue of people sniffing their own farts. Like we already get that, right? Uh, um, but it becomes so easy to be, and you guys got into, and again, one of those rabbit holes I love diving down is what is the measure of success, right? It's nebulous, and here I am judging people's opinions of success by saying they're not successful because they suck at what they do. But I think one of the things that is a struggle here, and one of the things that has been craft beer's biggest, they won't get out of their own way because they refuse to admit that they're not as good as they think they are, and that has to do with just spending a lack of time. Not just I don't want to. Everyone who thumbed up their nose at Anheuser-Busch would love to take a 6-month internship at an AB brewery, right? But even more than that, everyone who thumbed up their nose at Anheuser-Busch should spend 6 months at a real major food manufacturer and learn some of these things. And I think that's one of the things that maybe you guys did not touch on that I would have said, but otherwise, again, you guys freaking killed it last episode. Um, and again, you spoke for me very well. We should just always do the podcast where I don't actually speak, so no one has to listen to me. You just say what I would say.
That's not true.
So the listeners don't have to hear me, but they still get my perspective, which is maybe the best way for this podcast to happen.
We should
have
just alternate episodes where you always come on in and just like speak after what we talked about the last episode. So there was something in there that I really wanted to respond to because it made me think, and you talked about the expertise, and there, I don't know about up in Minnesota, but I feel like down here we don't have a terrible lot of brewer owned breweries. Like
Sure.
breweries that were opened by an experienced brewer who got like the backing and was able to open something up. And now I say that knowing that I have worked for one, and it has its pros and cons of coming with working with someone who has experience in it. But man, I wonder if there is something to it, the fact that, because I've talked to plenty of brewers who are like, man, if I could open my own place, but the fact there isn't any of them getting financial support for something must mean that they either are not good at business planning or they're not super serious about it. Like there's so much to think about as to why there isn't expertise in it from people who do know what they're doing in brewing, that
Well,
they aren't the ones opening the breweries.
Well, it goes back to what Kevin said of there's people that are passionate in this area and people that are passionate in this area, and never the twain shall meet for whatever reason. I mean, brewers are notoriously curmudgeonly, which is not great towards raising capital, establishing strategic relationships, and
I know brewers who could barely put together an SOP, let alone a business plan.
and by the way, like I've seen some of the business plans that brewers, even some of the brewers that went to business school. Uh, man, I went to business school and I was in a corporate environment for a long time. Could I put together a business plan? Probably. But I fucking hated it, which is why I became a brewer in the first place. Right? Like there's almost a part of that where you need to have, like, one of my favorite breweries up here in Minnesota is Fulton, but because it was sort of a dream team, right? It was like a scientist and a handyman, uh, and a lawyer and an MBA all got together and started a brewery, and it was like, okay, that was how that should go, right?
It's a hell of
Is
a
like
team.
this is like the guy that can weld and the guy that can run a business and the guy that knows the science and like the guy that knows the legal in and outs. Like that's a way, but that's rare, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know a brewer with a PhD who started his own brewery and ended up selling it to someone else. And now both of those breweries are defunct. Um, because it does require kind of a diverse skill set, and I think maybe, and like you said, and I know talking with Joel, I think Florida has a lot more of the brewery owners who thought brewery owning a brewery would be a way to get rich. I don't think you see that as much up here in the Midwest. Um, but that doesn't mean we don't have our own expectation, our own level of unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
I don't think the owners here looked at it as this is how I'm going to get rich. I think most people went into it was very clear eyed that this is not my retirement plan. There, certainly some of them, right? Um, but as far as like when we even just talk about like what it takes to what it takes to break even, right? Like Kevin, you had mentioned last time, like at some point, pay yourself a salary, and I think even just to that point, the number of people who understood that it's going to be a long time before they could do something like that, I think maybe that's a different level of unrealistic. Um, but not every great idea. Things can be a great idea without anyone paying for it, right? Uh, uh, Napster was a great idea, but no one was paying for it and no one was making money off of it. Like there are some things where just because it's a great idea doesn't mean it's something that is going to. And again, not that money should be the goal, but I think anybody who's going to open a business should try to, even the least capitalist among us, should still find a way to be able to pay salaries.
No, and to be
And
sustainable, because you want to
yeah,
offer someone a position, and even if you just want to be in a modest situation, I think
yeah,
that's the goal,
yeah,
right? Sustainability has to be it.
yeah,
Uh, you said something, Tim, that I just wanted to revisit,
yeah,
talking about anyone in, say, my position would
mhm,
be lucky to spend 3 months at Budweiser,
yeah,
right, in learning. And this was something I came to early on because I knew a gentleman named Paul Farnsworth who had worked at, I think it's been a long time, and you say these things over and over again, and they get, every time you remember something, you're remembering the memory of it, and it
hmm,
just gets clouded. I know for a fact he worked at Anheuser-Busch. I think he might have worked for Miller Coors at one point, but he was a fermentation scientist. He taught brewing, and he was brilliant, right? He'd been in the industry for a long time. And I knew people who snubbed their nose up at him because he worked for Anheuser-Busch.
hmm,
And he had amazing stories about Bud Light wheat and how that all came to be, and all the things that went into that beer, and I learned so much from him. And so I came to a realization early on, like that kind of education and that kind of understanding of that process would be valuable. But I think there's a lot of hubris in our industry where
oh
we also
yeah,
have you know uh, this little guy fighting against a big guy complex, and anything on that side must be evil. And we have this idea that we have to be the righteous, and anything outside of that is wrong and bad. And our stuff's always good. In the brewery that Mike and I worked at, I always go back to the fact that we'd be sitting around having a beer, and he would say, "It's the best IPA he's ever made. It's better than Dogfish Head 60, man." And be like, "No, no, it's not. I mean, it's
yeah,
not. You can say this is a good IPA. I'm proud of it. I think I make a good IPA. I do talk a lot about how good our beers are. I just went on. I probably talked too much about Pacific Edge. I never said that it's the best pilsner ever made, right? And
hmm,
that's not to pat myself on the back, but I think it's a reminder that we all should have, that we should reevaluate how we look at things, And when someone like Tim brings up an incredible point about production, look at when you're focusing that lens on other people and critiquing what they're doing, you got to look back at yourself and maybe you realize, oh my God, I'm doing 50% of those things. And
Yeah.
maybe you have to. That's how you have to get by. And that's what I come back to when you guys make great points about production and things of that nature. I'm often going, man, I wish I could do that really important thing that they just said, but I don't feel like I have the capital or the time or any of the ability to do it. And it's not to like put yourself in a situation where you're just always feeling like you have imposter syndrome or always feeling like you're always playing catch up, but just to evaluate who you are and be honest about your place in this whole thing. And if there's one unrealistic expectation that almost every craft brewer I know is that they never seem to, including me, really know where they fit in the hierarchy,
Yeah.
really know where their place is, not just in the market, but in the view of the public, in the view of your
You know,
team.
one of the greatest experiences for me earlier in my career was when I was at Badger Hill, because at the time we were the only brewery in Shakopee. Now there are more that are there, and we were right there by RAR, right? So RAR malting, everyone's getting malt from RAR malting, right? So big deal to be right there at the headquarters of RAR malting. So they were using us. They were using us for tests because before they built their technical center, they had, a modest brewery on site, but they wanted to scale something up. They would use us. But at the end of the day, right, like AB was sending a PhD malting scientist to their facility once a month to audit them. I would go there and go, "Yep, looks like malt." Like I don't fucking know. And that's not to say, "Hey, look at me. I'm dumb because I don't have a PhD malting scientist on my staff." But it is to say I can't. So I have to rely on the big guys. So first of all, I shouldn't shit on them because they wouldn't exist without them, as much as I like to pretend like I would. Um, but yeah, it was a know my place in the pecking order type of thing, right? Not to be like the whole bring up the, big fish in a small pond type of thing, but just know what pond you're in and understand that like, yeah, I want to be the best I can possibly be, but I know I can't hire a PhD malting scientist. There's going to be zero return on investment. I'm not going to be able to do it. So I'm going to have to rely on others. So let's just remember, yep, I can be the best mid-sized brewery in the southwest metro of Minneapolis. It does not mean that all of a sudden, and it doesn't, I could win 3,000 GABF gold medals. It still does not mean that I am the greatest thing since sliced bread. And so there was a lot of great knowledge I got from that, but a lot of great humility. And I think, uh, like I said, ego and unrealistic expectations go hand in hand.
Quick thing, because I was looking up Dr. Paul's credentials, because I've met and drank with Paul a number of times years ago at Coffee District and Funky Buddha and all that. And a funny thing that I found, I couldn't actually find if he had worked for AB or Miller, but found many other craft breweries that he worked with during his time. But found a Reddit post from 2 years ago of someone in the r/food science subreddit saying, "I need to hire a beverage consultant for formulation and scaling of a commercial batch of alcohol beverage." And there's only 2 comments on it. And one of them is, "I am a fermentation scientist with decades of experience in food, beverage, and fuel production. You can contact me, Dr. Paul Farnsworth." And like, it's just funny that he's on Reddit, like soliciting work for consulting gigs.
That doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form.
But it's funny that he signed his comment, Dr. Paul Farnsworth.
Well, I mean, if I was a doctor, I'd sign everything, Dr. Paul Farnsworth. I don't know why I would do that. I would just say that.
My name's Kevin Abbott. I do have a doctorate, but
But
Dr.
I
Paul
go
Farnsworth.
by Dr. Paul Farnsworth. It's an alias. It's an important alias I have.
But this is a fun tangent that we got ourselves onto here, because it really just it completely keeps up with the fact that like Tim said, is that this is just like such an immature industry that is full of unrealistic expectations from all over the place. And I don't really know if we're in a spot where things are going to calm down, like to get less crazy, all
no.
like bad sales and all of that aside, but like, will closing of breweries result in the ones that are staying open be the more scientific and the more experienced places that can be a shining light of example upon an industry?
I mean, I think the what we were talking about really goes into one of the things that we were planning on talking about here, which is like distributors struggling, things of that nature. You know, one of the things that we have seen in our entire lives, and I don't want to speak for you, Tim, but you please tell me if I'm wrong in your experience, but when I worked for multiple breweries that were just getting into distribution around the time that I was with them, and you could go anywhere you wanted and they just wanted you. It wasn't like you had to sell yourself to them in any way, shape, or form. It was just like they were brand collectors. Why not? I'll take anybody. Maybe you make good beer, maybe you don't. Maybe I sell it, maybe I don't. Now, some of that's franchise law, so there's just no downside to it whatsoever for them, at least in Florida. But that mentality, it might go away. Right? There might be a consolidation when it comes to that, and the focus and the time and energy, especially if any of these franchise laws reforms happen in a state like Florida or many other places across the country. But there's a little bit of enabling, maybe. It's almost like a perfect storm, right? You got a lot of people who are passionate with no skills. You have a lot of people who have money but no knowledge or whatsoever, like we just talked about, which is like that whole aspect of it. But then you've got this other industry. It's like, yeah, whatever. Whoever you are, we'll take your beer and we'll sign you to a contract, and a contract for life. Once again, talking about Florida, and then we'll sell it or we won't or whatever. If that ever changes, the distribution model, either through not wanting to deal with so many breweries or not being able to because they're shifting their priorities, I think that might be one of the biggest keys to having this entire thing change.
Yeah, 1,000%. So yes, exact same experience up here, brand collecting distributors. I think so. I'm not one to entirely shit on the idea of a 3-tier system. I'm not one to entirely shit on. Just as much as I say I rely on Budweiser to give me good malt from our malting, I rely on Budweiser to give me a good distribution network. Because we were talking a little bit before we started here, but like boutique distributors come and go, but the ones that stand the test of time are the ones that have the backing of they're a Bud house. Because at the end of the day, they need volume and placement, and you get that through a large national brand. So I'm not one to entirely shit on that. So I'm not saying, hey, get rid of distributors, because I think distributors play a very key role in this. The most devastating, but potentially most beneficial thing would be for the current distribution model to completely blow up. Everyone would get fucked. And so it would be devastating. But you can't just buy a brand and let it sit on your shelf and never actually sell it. You can't ever, we need something new, but we can't get to that something new without destroying the current system we have, and that's what scares me. And so when I see these, so what Kevin alluded to earlier was Eagle Rock, very large uh, semi-national distributors closing down a bunch of operations. I think they got purchased by Southern Glazer. Is that what it
They're
was?
yes, so they are a two-state operation. They were originally based out of Georgia, but also have a Colorado
Yeah.
distributor, and they're the AB distributor in a large portion of Colorado, and they were purchased by Southern Glazer, and they are consolidating and shutting down the entire Eagle Rock distribution effective June. They gave the warning, uh, the worker adjustment and retraining notification filed on April 3rd. So that's 2 months notice and will affect 514 employees.
But so it'll affect 514 employees, and I don't want to downplay that. That's huge. Uh, think about all of the accounts that distributor services.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So-
right? Yeah.
I just want to ask real quickly because I did read the article, but I kind of, in fairness, I just kind of looked over it quickly. I was in the middle of my workday. Are they going to sell Bud in this area? Or are they literally shutting down that and bought it for other assets?
Well,
Uh,
Southern Glazer will still sell Budweiser in that area.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if I know anything about Southern Glazer, and that's actually Southern Glazer is the company that I purchase wine and RTDs from for my brewery
Yeah.
in Florida. They're
Yeah.
massive, right?
Yeah.
So this is essentially a massive national distribution network absorbing a local Bud distributor for their assets. They're going to sell Budweiser because, of course, they're going to. But is the question that we're talking about is like, are they going to have anything to do with any of the other brands? Are they going to cut brands back significantly? Like, and also to ask multiple questions that you guys then will not be able to answer because that's really, really good conversation. What does that mean for the distributor that's getting out of the industry? Was it rats deserting a sinking ship? Right? Because many businesses consolidate all the time. Doesn't mean that the industry is dying. But we saw in Florida multiple Bud distributors in Florida sold out to one of the Bud distributors in Florida about 3 or 4 years ago and consolidated. It was much more fragmented. And no one's freaking out going, "Oh my God, the beer industry's dying." But there might be some prescience there for those people going, "This ain't looking too good in a couple years. Let's get the hell out of this thing."
Yeah. I mean, anytime there's so if you've got a consolidation on a distributor level across multiple brands, that just means less representation per brand. Right? Like that is one of the biggest things. When I say think about all of those accounts, I don't just mean the restaurants and bars and liquor stores that they serve. I mean the brands that they have in their portfolio. I mean the relationships that they have. I mean all of those things. I think that's overall less representation, and we'll get into it. This sucks because like so many of these things we talk about are so interrelated, and I want to get into one point that Mike made about the shrinking of diversity on the liquor store level, which you're also seeing at the restaurant level. But it does mean less variety, or at least less focus on variety, right? We've already talked about how distributors might buy a brand and then do jack shit to push that brand, but they're even less incentivized to do that now. And sort of getting back to the point you made last episode, Kevin, about people measuring success by always growing. A company like Southern Glazer, right, has stakeholders that they need to show returns to. So it's not about just keeping things alive. It's about growth.
Yeah.
Right. And so that becomes antithetical to the thing that we were talking about. What the best thing that craft beer can be right now is to not be that brewery that thinks they're going to do 30,000 barrels next year. They need to be the brewery that's comfortable doing 3,000 barrels for the next 10 years ongoing. And the trend in distributor is a growth oriented model in a way that small breweries need to get comfortable not growing. So they're literally on divergent paths. At least that's what I'm seeing. You guys have thoughts?
I agree with you. Like Southern Glazer and Reyes are prime examples of that. Like I don't remember offhand who's the bigger of the two, but I mean they're goddamn close for the biggest distributor in the country. And but the thing is that Southern Glazer used to be primarily focused on wine and spirits, and now they're getting more into the beer business. They're buying beer distributors,
But
especially a
not,
lot of like bud houses around the country.
but not down here. Like I
No,
was
not
actually
down
recently
here.
talking with, but that is important that you
But
mentioned
they
that.
are a multi-stated, like
Yeah.
they're in almost every state in some shape or form, and like so you have this in territories where there's Southern Glazer, they have a lot of stuff. Like I can't remember offhand as actually one of my dear friends used to work for them for a period of time, but I'm pretty sure that they carry Constellations, wine,
Okay.
and spirits, which is a huge portfolio and does like big business all over. Like don't even think about like their beer business, but they carry a ton of huge brands. And now that like this they are acquiring in Colorado the AB distributor, like I'm looking at their website. Their website's fucking terrible, Eagle Rocks. But they are acquiring all the AB brands. They are getting a few of the AB crafts. They're getting all the Tilray brands, so your Sweetwaters, your Breckenridge, 10 Barrel, that type of stuff. They are getting Surfside seltzers, who are like one of the biggest growing brands
Yeah.
in the country. They're getting Neutral. They're getting a lot of stuff that a business that is just trying to grow for stakeholders, like Tim said, that looks good. Like on paper to them, they're like, oh yeah, hey, we're getting the bigger selling brands. This is good.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're a publicly traded company or you're one that's funded by private equity, at the end of the day, you did not get the capital to establish your brand or grow your company without looking for people who are looking for exponential return on investment. And so all of those companies are looking for return on investment, and you don't get that through sustainability. You just
Yeah.
don't.
So one of the things that we will get lost in the weeds, and we do this last week. We do this almost every week, talking about our industry from our personal understanding of it, from our experiences. And we talk about distribution all the time. But there's one important thing to remember in all this is that like there are we have seen so many ominous signs of where the beer industry is going with all the closures, and that those are very they are very visual signposts that we're seeing constantly, and they're like, oh my god, this one's going down, and this one's going down, and this classic brewery is going away. Consolidation is not good for small craft beer. Now, I'm sure there's argument that it is, but I'm going to give you my argument why it's not. I have a distributor called Gold Coast. They operate out of basically 3 major counties in South Florida, and they are the 3 counties that we do the most business in. But it's important to note that the farther you get away from my brewery, the less beer we sell. I mean, it drops off in an insane amount, right? I have a new sales rep that I'm training right now and showing him the sales reports, and you can see the look on his face like, "Oh, wait, like, we sell all this beer in Palm Beach County and all this beer in Broward County, but in Miami-Dade County, we sell that little?"
Mhm.
Yeah, because the farther we get away from the brewery, the less local, quote unquote, we are, and the less reach that we have. There's other breweries down there doing their thing. Now, Gold Coast is still in like 3 counties, so we do pretty well with them. And in the hierarchy, we get a little bit of attention. If they were to buy out our contract to have our beer on the west coast of Florida or northern Florida, where we do almost no sales, now all of a sudden in that company, we're a much smaller fish. Yeah, we're doing well in our little tiny home market, but are they really going to push our beer in Jacksonville and the Panhandle? No. And then as you're a smaller and smaller fish in the greater portfolio, they're just going to 80/20 you. They're just going to focus on the brands that are doing the best, and they're going to maybe even start doing less with you in the territories that you're quote unquote doing well in. That kind of consolidation, we are built to my brewery to sell beer to our local market, and we struggle outside of that market. And I think that's most craft breweries of our size. So
Mhm.
as we see this consolidation in the bud houses and buying all these little things up, that's not good for us. And I've been part of that where I've been sold to multiple places, and it's never worked out very well. All those places that I was sold to did nothing with our brand.
Mhm.
Nothing. Because what they bought us for, and Tim, to your point, and Mike, as you were reiterating, and looking at the shareholders, when they bought that brand, when they bought the portfolio, they were not looking 14 breweries down on the sales sheet. They looked at the top 5. And
Mhm.
that's what they bought it for. And that's what they're interested in. And everything else is just chaff,
Oh yeah,
right? It means
when br-
nothing to them. And you're never going to do a freaking drop of beer with them.
and like I wasn't impacted by Brown selling, who like Kevin, that very much impacted you. Uh, but that when they sold off their huge territory to all those multiple different distributors, who were those distributors looking at? They were looking at Founders. They were looking at Funky Buddha. They were looking at
Cigar City.
Cigar City. Yes, there you go. And like those were the 3.
Yeah,
And like
100%.
and rightfully so. Like those were the big anything else that came along with them, it was just like it was like that a 7th round pick just tacked on to the deal.
Or cash
And it's like,
considerations.
okay, if something comes of that, yeah, or future even better is
Yeah.
future considerations. Uh, yeah, that's all it was to them. And you've talked about the one distributor that you have that just will not let you go
Yeah.
unless you pay X amount of dollars, because like it truly doesn't matter to them. And it's not like you actually have a contract you can just sit out and wait out. But franchise law is not what we are talking about. But yeah,
I mean, there are distributors that were literally buying brands, collecting brands, not the show. Well, okay, 2 reasons. One, so they can say, "Hey, look at all of these brands that are in our stable." Doesn't mean they were pushing 90% of those brands. It was literally just a look at all the cars in my garage. I only drive 3 of them.
yeah, it was a
And
logo
collecting
on
it,
their website.
and collecting
It, well,
assets, potential lottery tickets.
and the other thing that they were doing is buying a brand so their competitor doesn't have it, right?
Yeah,
So it does not matter if I buy Barrel of Monks, I don't have to sell you, but you know what I'm guaranteeing is no one else is selling you either. Like that is a very real thing. I don't know that it's happening as much now, but I think there's enough of the brands that are already saddled by that that did definitely happen 10 years ago. Where it was if I just amass these brand, I mean, because like I know some really big multi-state distributors right now that still can't give out a fucking sales report to breweries. And I know that they have the infrastructure, and I know they have the business intelligence, and I know that they have all of that. But they're just not important enough to get a fucking sales report. Like like that stuff really does happen. And so, Kevin, what you were saying about consolidation is hurting is Uh, as much as I was just over here talking about how I rely on the big guys, at the same time, the thing that really hurts is I become an even less important piece of that pie. Exponentially, I become less and less and less important. I can't get a sales report. I can't get. It's not even about I don't have a sales rep talking to me. I can't even get fucking data back to me. I can't even get a phone call on some of these things.
The bigger the company, the less important you are when you're the little guy. And
Yeah.
it is just, and by the way, I don't blame them. If you are buying an asset for Founders and Funky Buddha in Cigar City, and you got to pay $5,000 for Barrel of Monks because that's whatever the number they gave for you, you're like, fine, it's a rounding error, right? That there's no downside to that. You bought for the long term viability of those other brands, and it's there. And what happens when the entire industry is struggling? And this is what I was talking about, those ominous warning signs, right? Like, we're seeing the struggle everywhere. Bars and restaurants aren't selling as much beer or anything, and breweries aren't selling, and distributors are struggling, and they're looking for what they're going to do. What are they going to do? They're going to cut the people that focus on the craft brands because the margins are slimmer. They don't sell as much of it. So now all of a sudden you got a brand manager that was brand managing 20 brands. Well, now they're managing 40 because they cut one of their people. And now you have a little less attention on a weekly basis. Oh, and then you're also going to cut some sales reps, and you're going to turn everything to online ordering for 20% more of your accounts. Well, what are those accounts ordering? They're not hand ordering your IPA. They're ordering the bigger beers in your portfolio. And what else are you going to do? You're going to stop servicing the mom and pop accounts that only order one slim a month, because
Mm-hmm.
that's just not worth it for me. And where do the accounts like mine live? What do we need? We need extra SKUs. We need specialty beers on a monthly or these bi-monthly basis or whatever it is, or month every other month basis. I shouldn't bi-monthly. I think it means twice a month. But all those things in a vacuum, one of those things could hurt you. But all those things
Mm-hmm.
together, with a down market, with struggling, and with all those bars and restaurants going, this craft beer, it was really popular a while ago, but if I just go back to Blue Moon, Budweiser, Shock Top, and Space Dust, I'm going to
Yeah,
sell
I say.
basically the same amount of beer. And it's going to cost me less, and I don't have as much a headache. I got as many people talking to me and bothering me. We're seeing that more and more. All of those things are funneling us towards a catastrophe that in some ways, it has something to do with us, but it's also indirect in some way as well. It's nothing we're doing. It's just the world that we're living in.
So I go back to Buffalo Wild Wings, my Buffalo Wild Wings days. What hurt us in 2011 is that we had 30 taps and we weren't doing enough for local. And right now, what has hurt them in the last 3 years is that they had 30 taps and they were doing too much of local. And it's not part of that was just the choice paralysis, right? Too many options. But the other thing is, and it doesn't have to be Shock Top. It can be Voodoo Ranger, right? Mike's favorite brand in the history of the world, apparently. Uh, 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 Look, I love New Belgium. We all love Matty Smooth.
100%.
We love so much what's going on there, but they can right now where margins have gotten fucking destroyed. They can sell you a half barrel $30 cheaper than I could probably even break even on. Right? Like there's just nothing I can do to even compete in that space just because of volume alone. And so that becomes a whole other challenge. Is it's not just that I'm competing against Budweiser, it's just that margins are so slim and restaurant margins are so slim that they're making a choice of. I mean, I have seen it across so many restaurants here, and Mike will get into this. Your experience at the liquor store. This is a good segue into that. Is that we complained 15 years ago when the craft section was like 5 brands, and then it became 500 brands, and now it's back to 5 brands, and that's because of margin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to follow up on what Tim said, yesterday I went to one of my local Publixes. Kevin and I talked about this.
Is the plural of Publixes?
Publi?
I think Publix is like deer. The plural of Publix is Publix.
Okay.
Publixy?
So
Publixi.
Ooh, I like Publixy. I'm gonna push that.
That's a good one. When I was at the Barrel of Monks anniversary party, Kevin and I were talking about like the sets that he got into for his Waypoint IPA, and he's like, I got a list of the stores that we will not be in, and I was like, oh, let's play to see if I know which ones in West Palm they aren't, because we had sets for our B squeeze, and we were not in the 3 closest Publixes to my house. And Kevin confirmed that 2 out of those 3 he was not going to be in, but one of them was my second closest one. So I went into that Publix yesterday. I needed to do some grocery shopping, and I was like, let me go over to there and see if Waypoint is in there yet. So I go over to the beer section, and I see a ton of new brands. A ton of new brands from New Belgium, a ton of new brands from Sierra Nevada, and a ton of new brands from Lagunitas. Kevin is distributed by the same distributor as those 3 brands. So the fact that 3 of them are already have their new brands into the sets, while Kevin's has not. Like, I didn't even see an empty space with a marker on it. Like, I was looking at that because there was a few empty spaces, but I was like, oh, nope, that's a Sweetwater space. And I was just like, wait a minute. Now that I look at this, there is 3 Voodoo Ranger 4 spears. There's this new Sweet Ride IPA that I picked up. There were a couple. Oh, there's Juicy Hazy, one of their standard Voodoo Ranger beers. Then Sierra Nevada had Hazy Little Thing 6-packs, 12-packs, Pale Ale 6-packs, Peach Little Thing, Pills cans, which I did pick up an 8-pack of the Pills cans. They had a 12-pack of Big Little Thing, I think it was. Then Lagunitas had, I think, four brands as well. More than half of the craft section were just those 3 breweries, and like Sweetwater had 3 brands in there. Like the closest thing to local is Civil Society had 2 brands in there, and Cigar City had like 2 formats of High Lie, and like that's it. A couple onesies, twosies in there. Dogfish 90 was still in there, but still don't know what the date code on that is. I think I said that on the last episode, but yeah, it was crazy how much, like, it seemed like over the last few years, it just seems like every year with the spring reset, Publix makes some drastic changes in what they're doing, and it just seems like going to old reliables, like brands that they can just always count on being in stock, and that's really that.
I don't want to hijack this, Mike, but do you know the store number or the address, like what street that Publix was on?
Southern Boulevard. I don't know the store number, but it's the only store on Southern Boulevard.
Do you know the general manager's name? What his home phone number is?
No,
Tom,
no.
561.
I literally today did a breakdown of like the stores that have been reset and the stores that have not been reset, and I went through this all today and did kind of an interesting experiment. And the reason why I wanted to know is that I wanted to see if this was a store that had been reset or a store that had not been reset yet, because sometimes, I mean, there are stores right now that have bought the beer in on 3/3, and they're not going to be reset till July. Think about that.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Oh
just
God.
think about that.
Oh
Think about how
God.
bad.
That makes me so angry in so many
Yeah.
ways.
That
Rightfully
is that.
so.
Oh, is this Loxahatchee Grove? Could that be?
No,
No, that's the
no,
only
this
one
is
I see
West Palm.
on Southern
I feel
Boulevard.
like you made that up. That sounds like a Garrison Keillor.
Okay, I'm not going to go
Uh,
deeper into this, but what I'm going to say to you about this is that today I went into one of my local Publix, and I know for a fact they're not resetting for about 3 weeks. But I went in there and I looked on the shelf to see if I know for a fact the beer's in the back. I know because I have the sales report. And I walked in and I started talking, and I just randomly ran into the Gold Coast, both of them, both the sales rep and the merchandiser, and just kind of conversation. Hey, what's going on, man? Basically saying, hey, I know the beer's here. Can you cut this in right now? Because there's empty spots in the sets, and I know it hasn't been reset officially yet, but the beer's been here for over 4 weeks. So instead of just letting it sit in the back when there's open spots, can we just kind of put a price tag on it and put it on the shelf and maybe sell it? And, what I want to stress is that the guys I talked to were very nice. They listened to me, they engaged with me, we had a cool little conversation. But I am telling you that if I had not gone, and by the way, I don't know that they're going to do it, but he said, "Oh yeah, tomorrow or the next day I'll come in and I'll cut it in." But this beer's been there, and there's empty spaces, and it's their beer. But why are they not making it a priority? Because I'm not Lagunitas, and I'm not Sierra Nevada,
Yeah.
and I'm not New Belgium. And I get it. I really, really get it. I do not want to demonize or make it sound like I think, oh, those guys should be putting my beer on the shelf. I'm not a priority because I'm also not in their 7-Elevens, and I'm not in their Walgreens and their Walmart, and I'm not in their face all the time. And we are a passing thought, and we're always going to be until we are in all those places and we are equal to those other brands.
well,
And I have dozens of stores, dozens and 100 stores just like it, where the resets
there
haven't
are
happened, but the
dozens
beer's
of
been
us,
sold.
Michael. Dozens. No, no, but it's not just about being in all of those stores. Again, I get back to, uh, so we talk about how the restaurant industry is hurting, because people are cooking at home. But on a generic case count of food, one case of beer, a case equivalent of food, grocers are down something like 13 billion cases from last year. People aren't even just going out to eat less or going out to bars less. They're just cutting back on their consumption as a whole. Right? So grocers are hurting as well. Grocery stores aren't going, oh great, people aren't going out to the bars, so they're buying their booze at the liquor store. They're also hurting. And so they're also margin conscious right now.
Who
So you
knew
could
that making America healthy again involved just making grocery prices so high that people couldn't afford to eat, and
yeah,
therefore they would lose the weight.
you lose weight when you just don't eat. Quickest way to lose weight is to not consume calories. Um, but 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 that is the thing. So even if you do, Kevin, even if you do get that placement in every single thing, so you are top of mind to everyone, you're never going to give the promotional support that those other brands do. Right? You're never going to give the point of sale, all the other, all the POP. You're never going to do that. You're never going to be able to give tastings or any of those other things. The freaking cooler, the any of those other things that those brands do. Uh, but you're also not going to be able to get them the price point and the margin that they want. And that is the thing that is really tricky is you can do everything you can to get in there. But again, I mean, like This is why you see so many breweries just getting out of the distribution game entirely and just going to being a taproom only model or being a brew pub model or some of these other things where they're just getting out of it is they went, look, I'm I'm not making any money on a case of beer at this point. Certainly certainly not making enough to make it worth it. Like it's
Like,
it's it's not just tight at it's we always talk about this. It's like the kids could afford college if they quit eating avocado toast. At this point, the kids can't even just afford to quit eating toast. Just toast.
hey, Peter Frampton, do you like toast too? Uh,
Always got we got to
so
have at least one Mitch Hedberg reference, or maybe the
Yeah.
Three Amigos, or maybe It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. We've hit
Yeah.
most of our things on the bingo card. I have to
Yeah.
ask
so
this, Mike.
I want to
Go
do
ahead. Go ahead.
one thing real quick to talk about like the margins is so this beer that I had earlier from Boulevard, a 6-pack of barrel-aged beers for $20. Our 6-packs of beers that aren't barrel-aged and that can turn over in 2 weeks are only like $8 less than that.
Yeah.
Like it's what that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it,
And
it,
so that
it's a war on
becomes
those
a
prices.
real challenge. Right? I mean at this point you have to be, and I know you guys aren't here, and I'm not trying to tell you how to run your business, Kevin, but you almost have to be making at least 10,000 barrels a year to be able to actually turn a packaged production brewery into something that is viable.
Dude, I'm realizing that more and more every day. That's the shame of it. That is exactly what you talked about for the immaturity of the business, that as many models and things that we ran over the years, we missed that. And we opened a brewery not knowing that. And we're trying to struggle to make ends meet in spite of it. Um,
I
I don't know. I'm sorry. I have to say this really
No,
quick
say
before I
it.
lose my train of thought. And I don't know if this is the most interesting thing or the most boring thing for the people listening. Is that is that Publix the Southdale Shopping Center Publix?
Yes.
Okay. So,
I sent through the chat the store number.
oh, okay. I was like, I did not see. I don't like. I know what a chat is. Come on, who you talking to? So I
But
just
by the
found
way,
it
the store number is 50.
50.
It was the
50.
God,
Yeah.
50th
this
store
is
to ever open for
this is
Publix.
this
That
is
shows how
so
old it is.
this is so funny to me that Kevin is running his business in real time on this
No,
podcast.
no. This is
I love the
I
transparency.
no,
Like
no.
I think that that's
I
fantastic.
I love it. It's great. It's just hysterical to me.
no. I have something to share, and I think this might be interesting. Once again, to me at least. So that store is getting reset on the 22nd of this month. They
Okay.
bought our beer for the first time on 3/3. They rebought our beer
So it's
on
there in house.
no. They rebought our beer on 3/12. It's an automatic ordering process. Once it's down to 1 6-pack, it automatically reorders. So they bought our
Okay.
beer. Someone put it on the shelf. Probably didn't put a price tag there. They just put it on the shelf. It sold at least a case, or at least no, must have sold a case because the beer is off the shelf. So there is for sure at least 1 6-pack in the back. It could be a whole case that they didn't bother to restock it again. But that tells me that someone put it on the shelf. It didn't even have a price tag, and we sold a case. But yet they did not have the wherewithal to put the other case on the shelf when they for sure have the space. But as you said, Mike, you saw a lot of new beer. So they prioritized the other beer, and mine's just sitting in the back. There's no doubt there's my beer sitting in the back, just waiting for 422 to put that beer on the shelf and actually put a price tag on it and sell it. This is what I'm talking about. There is
Yeah.
no one there that is going, I got this new beer in. It is in 97% of all Publix in Palm Beach County. It is a new core. I need to make sure it's on the shelf and I give it the best chance to do well. It is, that's just a beer in our portfolio. How do you beat that? You don't.
So I'm gonna answer that, but I do have an aside. It does remind me of the scene in Airplane where he's like, "My orders came in, we're shipping out. We're flying out at 1800 hours to bomb the storage depots at Daiquiri. We're flying in north below the radar. When are you coming back? I can't tell you that. It's classified." Like literally, like you've you've lifted the veil on the things that you shouldn't. No, but I love that.
Should I not?
I do. No. I love that you do. It just tickles me that you're doing that. It's one of my favorite things about you, Kevin, is how earnest you are about being a brewery owner. And by the way, I don't mean
Which, by the
offense.
way, that's my least favorite Ernest movie. Is Ernest Buys a Brewery?
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it. Good night, folks. This has been United We Drink. We'll talk to you guys next time.
If AI is made for anything, if it is made for anything, it is reincarnating Jim Varney to do Ernest Buys a Brewery. And we write the script, guys. We write the script.
Oh, Mike, that was the single greatest joke you've ever made, and I'm so glad I was here for it.
We really should stop, guys. Come on. Let's be honest
Yeah.
here. We're not topping that.
Oh
Thank you.
my.
Good night.
Yeah, it's the Costanza. He just walks out.
You can buy our stuff. We're not even going to do last calls.
Yeah, no, but no, you're right, Kevin. Jesus Christ, I don't even know how to get back on track from this. You're right. There is no incentive, and that's the dilemma. There has to be an incentive for the producer, the retailer, and the consumer. All three have to have an incentive, right? Sometimes you can get away with two of them. Very rarely you can get away with one of them. But the only way the system works is all three of them have an incentive. And in that scenario you described, do any of them have an incentive? And I think that is the ultimate struggle. I like I don't know. I don't know how you do it.
I certainly don't, or I would be more successful.
No, and side note, if you can think of a better word than immature, I would love to hear it.
No,
Because I feel like there's so much baggage with that.
I don't think it's even a negative thing. I mean, my son is immature, but he's supposed to be because he's 8. Like our industry is immature because it's kind of supposed to be because there's not a lot of
Yeah.
true professionals that are in it and driving it at a national level. Listen, when we talk about and by the way, I want to reiterate this again just to make sure that anyone listening gets my vibe. If I were in the position of any sales rep or merchandiser and the new Belgium beer came in and the new barrel of Monk's beer came in, I would put their beer on the shelf first too.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
the same thing for Sierra Nevada. I would. They are better brands than ours in every way, shape, or form. They just are. Do I think that my IPA competes with theirs flavor-wise? I think it's pretty damn good IPA. Maybe. I don't know. That's up for you guys to decide, whoever drinks it.
But it doesn't even matter
that's
if yours is better. That's not what's making the decision here.
But that's what I'm saying. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what is visibility, who's pulling that beer, and what am I going to do if I care about my sales and wanting to raise them up? And I'm going to go with the established brand that has a lot of name recognition and sells beer in the freaking Panthers Stadium, right? Barrel of Monks doesn't do that. So I get it. I completely
again,
get it.
when I say that there's not even incentive on your end, you get where I'm coming from, right? Like,
Well,
there's not enough. There's not enough incentive on your end to be able to put through what you need to be able to truly make that successful.
What I hear when you say that is, and I'll go back to this. We have we have new pogs, new planograms for Publix, about 190 of them. To maintain
How many
these-
slammers?
Mike,
I was waiting for that reference. You
But
asshole.
also, Mike, are you using AI right now to come up with all these brilliant asides? I'm
This is
skeptical of
literally
you.
the funniest. Like if anyone who's ever listened to United We
That's the
Drink,
Who are
funniest
they?
Mike has ever been.
Simpsons pogs?
this is the funniest Mike has ever been.
Uh,
Thank you for listening to our very last episode of United We Drink, because Mike is never allowed to
He's out. No,
yeah.
I just want to like make this understood. Like, to maintain these in a way that, and we have to maintain them. We're going to have to go into these stores on a regular basis and make sure that they're continuously putting this beer on the shelves. And it should be a no-brainer, right? There's going to be a tag on it. And when the merchandiser sees that it's down to 1 6-pack, they go in the back and they grab the case and they do the thing. And that will happen 50% of the time, 70% of the time, maybe. But there's going to be a lot of stores where they just don't think about it. And they just don't really know it's in their portfolio. And they just kind of don't really care, because that's not the beer that's in every one of their stores, especially down in Broward County, where we're in 50% of the stores. So 50% of their stores have barrel monks in the set, 50% don't. Is this the one that has it? I don't know. I'm not going to check. Right. And if we don't maintain that and send somebody out every couple weeks to go check those sets, we're going to lose all those placements. All of them. A lot of them are going to go away. And it doesn't mean because
Quick
people weren't
question.
buying it.
But when I say your incentive to do that,
The cost to us to send people out every week to make sure that that's done, combined with the profits we make off of this, we lose money, and it makes no sense for us.
And that was the point that I was. By the way, I love every time that one of us makes a really good point, because I just did this to Kevin. He was making a really good point, and I nodded. And by the way, great response for a podcast, for an all audio media, is to have someone nod. But then we all do it to each other, where we're like, someone is on fire and they're making a good point, and everyone else is nodding along, and the listener is like, maybe they don't agree. I absolutely agree with Kevin.
So I actually have a real quick question for Kevin about like, because I don't know this about Publix's, and I assume like a lot of the major grocery stores might be the same way. That's sorry,
Publixier.
Publixier. I feel like I should be throwing confetti saying that. Publixier.
Ergo sum cognita.
Do individual stores have a manager that is in charge of the beer, or is it a group of like, there's beer, wine, and cheese, beer, wine, and dry goods, or like what it?
It's beer, wine, and Clorox wipes. Weirdly, I have no idea why.
That's a
just
strange
that
pairing.
one.
Yeah. They just had a person with an odd fetish. No, I
drink some PBR and huff on some Clorox wipes. Yeah,
so no,
sounds
it's
about
the
right.
manager. And I was actually talking to Remy about this today, my new sales rep, that I couldn't remember what because if you go into any Publixier, the Publix, it was a single version. If you go into any Publix, you will see like all the photos of the people that run the different departments. And I always forget which department runs the beer, but it's not a beer department. It is like the grocery or the this or the that or the other thing. And they're the person that oversees the beer. But very similar to like Total Wine and More, they don't merchandise their fridges.
Yeah.
They merchandise everything else. They merchandise black pepper, right? But with it, when it comes to, and you'll see people with like merchandising Doritos there. I'm not saying that beer is unique in that, but when it comes to beer, the distributors merchandise for themselves. Now there are managers that really love craft beer, and those stores, because they will merchandise and they will be on top of it, and they will make sure the holes in their sets are filled. But those are kind of few and far between. So no, there's not a person that is usually, when you go into a store, there's not like a person that's like, oh my God, I'm so gung ho about this. In fact, it's usually kind of you get an eye roll. Ah, God, I got to deal with this person again. And
I asked because, like, I know Whole Foods has like their specialty department, which
yes,
is
exactly.
beer,
Yep.
wine, cheese, chocolate, and coffee. And they have a manager over that department, and they have a buyer in that
Right.
department, and then they have associates who work in that department. And I've always thought that that was like I mean, Whole Foods do not have nearly as many locations as Publix, but I always liked that they had some sort of hierarchy in with beer, and it felt like I rarely ever see empty spaces in a Whole Foods beer cooler. Like it always seems pretty well stocked on things because you have people who specifically work in this small section that's all together. Like your beer and wine are always next to each other. The cheese and chocolate and coffees are usually pretty damn close to there as well. So you have these people who work in those departments, and they just always seem to be on top of it. Where like, yeah, Publix is not really ever on top of that stuff. And I was like, is there anyone in a store who oversees beer along with probably like a handful of other things?
So Kevin brought up something I don't think he knew that he was bringing up when he was talking about like Lay's potato chips. I
That's my
think
job.
one of the biggest thing I think one of the things that we overlook about grocery in particular is, do you know how many times a specific Pepsi employee is in a grocery store every week? Do you know how many times a Coke, a Frito Lay, employee is in a store a week? Right? Not a distributor. Literally, an employee of that
Oh yeah.
brand is in that store
Well,
every
they are
week.
also the distributors of their own products too, if for
Well,
those tips. So.
some of them they are, some of them they aren't. It depends on where you're at. It depends on what it is, right? Like you might go through like you might have a Coke bottler, but also the guy who's doing merchandising might actually work for Coke proper, not the bottler. You might actually have merchandisers that work, or they've hired a third party brand, but that works specifically for that brand. You might have there are. So one thing that we do really well up here in
Ooh, I
Minneapolis
should start a
is
merchandising company
well,
where
so
you can
we
just hire us to merchandise your shit.
well, so I'm not what I was literally just about to say is that one of the things that we do well up here in the Twin Cities is literally we have visual merchandising companies that service national brands, and that's a function of being Best
What
Buy
about
and
physical
Target and
merchandising?
whatever.
I like visual. I can visually merchandise a store, but like
Jesus Christ. Okay, your ability to make a great joke just went from here to here, and listener, I'm taking my hand up and I'm putting it
sorry,
down.
I
I
couldn't do
enjoyed it.
three in
I
one
enjoyed it. I
episode.
thought it was
That would
great.
just be way
Yeah,
too much. The world
yeah.
would
That was,
end.
But
it was the best joke you made.
there literally are companies that do those specific things, uh, or they hire a third party that might be outside of the distributor, right? So even Budweiser is going to rely on the distributor to do that stuff, but they do also have third party people that do this. There's a whole side note, there's a whole money laundering thing in alcohol that's existed forever where you pay a
I
separate
don't know anything
company.
about any money laundering. Sorry.
Yeah. Uh like Budweiser pays a company that the grocery store receives the benefit of. Anyway, I
Tim will also not be
I
on the
think
episode next week because he will have been murdered by
yeah,
the cabal
I
of
will
money
I
launderers.
will be swimming with the fishes. Um
You didn't
but
sell enough magazines.
but I used to be addicted to crack. Um, it's an that's an Office Space reference for those.
Oh my God, that was
So was
Uh,
everything I said.
yeah. Um, uh,
Mm.
but no, but the reality is grocers are so used to getting, whether it's a third party visual merchandising company, or it is a manufacturer direct merchandising company, or it's a distributor based merchandising company. They're like, I mean, like I notice this all the time. But The smartest thing to ever be invented was a square bottle. I'm going to say that right now, because you cannot face it, because it's it's very easy to face a round bottle the wrong way. It's intentional to face a square bottle the wrong way. Smartest thing to ever happen. But
Way to go, Simply Juice.
but yeah, seriously. But grocers are used to relying on not their experts within. So as much as they talk about, their wine and cheese, they don't see beer in that same category. They just don't. They do not see beer. It does not sell for the price that wine does or cheese does. It does not sell for the margin that wine or cheese does. It does not bring in the consumer that wine and cheese does, as much as we like to talk about it. Like, again, we keep on going back to Sam Calgione's affordable luxury. We've fucked ourselves over in that part in the industry. But you
Thanks,
have
Sam.
so many. Well, yeah, it's not Sam's fault. He just pointed it out. But you have these people that are so used to someone else doing that part of the job,
Yeah.
and so they put it to beer. They expect it to be in that same category, and so Kevin cannot have someone. Look, man, every
Well,
time I go to every time
it's that beer was always in that category with the big boys. And then when smaller companies started to come in and want some of that space, they realized like, oh shit, we don't have the capabilities of handling this like the big boys did, because the thing has always been that you merchandise yourself in those places.
You ever go to a grocery store? I want you to pay very specific attention to when you look on a grocery store shelf, which brands are facing the right way and which ones aren't.
No, I spend way too much time looking at that stuff. I look at shirts that people are wearing who are looking like they're doing official stuff. Like, I was thinking about this while you were talking, Tim. I don't think I've ever seen a wine merchandiser in a Publix before. Like,
Yeah.
those shelves are just always perpetually stocked and done. Where I almost always see a beer distributor, I almost always see a Frito-Lay's distributor, and then either a Coke or Pepsi person is
Yeah.
always in there as well. Like, it's yeah. I pay attention to the shirts and I pay attention to the faces, and I'm like, okay, you work for a distributor, you work for the company. Like, Publix, they like. I mean, maybe this is the way for all grocery stores. I don't know, but I'm just assuming it is. Like, you rarely see stockers for the for the actual company
You,
stocking things. They're
you,
usually done before the store opens.
but you know the even smarter ones that do it? They have them wear a Publix shirt. Like the best visual merchandisers. I did a little bit of temp work for a visual merchandising company. I didn't wear the shirt of the company I worked for. I wore the shirt of the brand I was representing, or the company that I was working for, right? So I did a little bit of visual merchandising for AT&T. I was wearing an AT&T shirt in an AT&T store. I didn't work for AT&T. Like like that's where the kind of the clever thing comes in. Uh and beer doesn't have it, and Kevin certainly can't have anyone give as much attention to that. Like Battle of Monks isn't going to be able to give anyone to be able to do that. Those little things matter. Facing on a shelf matters.
Especially, and this is something, I mean, now we're going a little bit into the weeds and maybe a little bit different than the topic that we kind of started off on. And by the way, I'm only saying that because I think it's
That's
accurate.
fine.
I've enjoyed every part of this conversation immensely, and I hope that people listening into it do as well. But I also have a pack tech. I don't have a cardboard box. So I need the actual labels to be spun around with your thumb to make sure that it looks good on the shelf. They're not doing that, right? Some people do. I won't discount the ones that do. Some people do, but every time I go into a store, I'm constantly moving things around because it doesn't have the best presentation that it possibly could have. Yeah, The little things, I mentioned this, I think, maybe twice before. I have a new sales rep. He's a current bartender of ours that is stepping into a role on a part-time basis to see if he can work out. And I'm very optimistic. He's passionate. He's driven. He has a lot of knowledge about our brand, and I'm thinking he's going to do a great job. All I keep driving home is attention to detail. Attention to detail. It's the little things that are going to make you stand out. It's the little things that are going to bring people back to the table. And we are nipping at the margins. We're not making these giant swings for stadiums. And even then, this attention to detail is important. But it's going to be the little things that you do that are going to allow you to go from 2,100 barrels to 2,300 barrels to 2,500 barrels. And if you focus on those things when other people are not, especially when the market is being, one, almost dissolved, and two, abandoned, but the sales reps are just disappearing because no one has money to pay for a sales rep anymore. If you're the one going in there and talking to people and engaging in with them and having the kind of relationships that we think about, you're going to do a lot better. But to Tim's point, there's a cap to that. We're not going to get to the point where I have a full-time merchandiser for every one of my C stores and my grocery stores. We can't afford it. It would destroy our margin completely. At some point at 10,000 barrels or 15,000 barrels, we would, if we were only in Florida. But I can't even produce 15,000 barrels out of my facility. Best case scenario. So I got to find a way to exist in what I can do. And that might be impossible. And I have to be realistic about that.
So
Yeah.
I hate to end us on such a dour note. But gentlemen, we have talked through, and not to cut you off, Mike, but we've talked through a lot of things. We've gone off the rails. I would like to note that the podcast I came back on is the one we went off the rails on the most. So I think we've learned a lesson that I do not help us keep things concise or complete or efficient.
But you keep it fun,
Uh,
Tim.
Mike, I want you to go ahead and wrap things up, but we should probably be moving on to last calls.
Yeah, probably in just a moment. Some of this billboarding and forward-facing stuff reminded me of a time where our distributor gave us very bad advice on something at my first brewery. There were two specific things that I remember being told by our distributor at that time, that they were like, "Do not do this. It's a bad idea." And both of those things became almost industry standards. The first thing was 16-ounce cans. Uh, I remember when Oscar Blues put out Deviant Dales, of a double IPA in a 16-ounce 4-pack, and I thought that beer was fantastic, by the way. And our distributor was also their distributor, and they were like, "No, this isn't going anywhere. Like, grocery stores don't want this. No one wants this format. Like, it's just too bizarre. Stick to 12-ounce cans." 16-ounce cans became a thing that not only do like grocery stores accept them, but it's the only thing that stadiums and a lot of like event spaces want. They don't want 12-ounce cans. They want large formats.
But do you have beer in a glass harmonica?
Yes. Like, we are the number one supplier of glass harmonicas. But then the second was we were looking into the cardboard 6-packs for our beers, like one CBC. It was my duty to get with as many packaging companies and get information to get quotes on doing 6-pack holders, the full cover cardboard cases for cans. And our distributor was like, "No." That, like, Ballast Point was doing them at the time, and we loved the billboarding effect of having those right next to one another. It was just good good looking stuff. They're like, no, when they break, then there's nothing that you can fall back on. Like you can't put that back on the shelf. Just stick with the pack text, because
You
if a
can't
can falls
fucking
out, you can
recycle
just
the
put it
pack
back
text. You
in.
can't face the pack text. Like there's a billion. Pack text is the worst thing to happen to brewing. End of story.
Oh, 100% agreed there. But the fact that they weren't like, you could just, someone could just tape the box shut, like if something like that were to happen, or
Every
breakage,
idiot and their
like.
sister reuses pack text, and they put through this. Oh, you can't recycle your pack text. Bring your pack text back to me. And now you've got this worn out plastic that people are re-fucking packaging beer with. God, nothing gets me more fired up than pack text. That should be a whole separate episode.
But I mean, I was like, really? You guys don't think that this is a good thing? No. Almost everyone uses those now too. Like you see so many cans in the full cover 6 packs, and I was just like, all right, this is just another thing that they just told us that we trusted them. Like, this is a business that has been around for 20 something years, and like, no, they were just wrong again on that.
This is the same company that told us, don't go away from 12-ounce bottles. Stay with 12-ounce bottles. Don't go to cans. It makes you stand out on the shelf. And
So I'm
sorry, Tim, but my partners
no.
who wanted to hear that used that as a weapon against me for 5 years. Mike, what you're saying is basically they've destroyed multiple breweries and then got out of the industry, and that kind of really fucked us.
Yeah.
So the other problem with the whole idea of distributor consolidation is that you have a bunch of people that are used to the way things used to work. And so they're only ever going to tell you the way things used to work. It, consolidation kills innovation, and it kills anybody's ability to think outside of the box. So yes, 1,000% that.
Great. I think it is good enough time as any to head into last calls, the point in the show where we give each other an unspecific amount of time to talk about whatever it is that we want, beverage related or not. The only rules are that it is uninterrupted, unopposed, and unobjected. Tim, what is your last call?
I'm gonna keep this very brief. First half of my last call is that I talk way too much, and obviously the last episode was amazing because they were super concise and super informative, and they did not get lost in the weeds like I drag us into. But one of the things that Kevin was so uh gracious enough to talk about was science-based cancer research. The long story short is that my sister is dealing with pancreatic cancer, and it tears me up inside, and I don't know how to handle all of this. But the thing that I struggle with all of this is that my sister has always been very much about homeopathic medicine, and I have a friend in the cancer research industry that could get her into a science-based, need-based trial, and I cannot convince her to get into it, and I'm very heartbroken about it because my parents, who are heartbroken and want to do everything, also want to respect her wishes, and it's a struggle because they want to respect my sister's opinions and feelings, but God damn it, I know deep down inside they know, like, yep, absolutely, please respect anyone's wishes. But if you are like, I've been struggling with this for the last week, for the last 2 weeks. There's so many things that people take that were found by science that people take for granted that science brought us. You can argue whether or not, oh, we shouldn't have fluoride in our water. Science also just taught us to brush our fucking teeth. Like, there are some things that we have learned to do. The idea that we need to be natural. Yeah, cavemen didn't brush their teeth, but you brush your fucking teeth. So don't be all cavemen survived, so we don't have to do this shit. Like, stop with that stuff. I'm not saying that the science-based things are going to save my sister. What I am saying is uh, this notion that the only thing we can do is through, like, I don't know, change in diet is going to somehow save this flies in the face of everything that is logical and reasonable. And to see my parents suffer and agonize and not have the ability to say something. And my sister and I don't have a great relationship, and we haven't for a while. And I love her to death. But there's just a way of knowing things that we have taken for granted how we know that, right? Like, you get in your car and you don't pretend like Jesus made your car drive. You go on an airplane and you don't pretend like crystals made the airplane fly. Like, you can believe in astrology, you can believe in all these other things, but there are certain things that you just take for granted in your daily life. Just understand that there is real research being done so that these things that we take that we can't take for granted, eventually we will be able to take for granted because we're actually doing those things to make a real difference. And so I'm very conflicted. Obviously all three of us on this podcast have given our opinion on our religious bent. So I'm not going to ask anyone to pray for my sister. Um, uh, I don't even know how I feel about just saying put good vibes into the world. But what I do say is, um, uh, please, uh, as Mike almost incredulously put it, it seems silly to say that there should be a thing called science-based medicine. I feel like all medicine is science-based. Uh, uh, it's the whole, you know what they call folk medicine that works? Medicine. Like, I just, um, love the people you're with, treasure the time that you have them. Uh, don't be angry that they're not, uh, paying attention to these things, but don't let that stifle your resolve to still help push for the things that matter in this world that will actually do something. Um, I don't know. I thought a long time about how to put a coherent thought together on all this, and I still haven't been able to figure it out. Um, but I'm very grateful to Mike and Kevin for calling it out that um, there's things we still haven't tackled in this world, and there's a way about figuring out the best way to tackle it, and I'm really optimistic that we'll be able to affect some change for my sister and for other people. I don't know, guys. I'm struggling, so I'm not gonna put a neat bow on this. But uh, yeah, I appreciate everyone who understands. No, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna leave it at that. So Sorry guys. Whoever's next, have fun with that.
If there's as good a time as any to ignore the rules, I feel like now is it to just simply say fuck cancer. Uh,
Yes.
it's just a simple statement. I see it as bumper stickers. I see people say it all the time, and the amount that I have had people who I love and care about have their lives so deeply impacted by that disease that just still exists. Fuck cancer.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. But
I
fuck you for ruining the rules. This isn't nom,
I made
Smokey.
I
There are
made the rules.
rules.
I can break the rules.
That's true. Mike did kind of make the rules.
Say what
I
you
say
will
them
about
every week,
communism,
so
at least
therefore
it's
they're
an
mine.
ethos.
I'll jump in next. So when the last episode came out, the day after the last episode came out, not the day after we recorded the episode, but after it came out, was my final day of working at Copper Point Brewing. And I no longer work in the beer industry as of right now. I am a freelance person. Saying creative just sounds weird and dirty, and I'm still trying to come to terms with that until I can find a better word for it. But things have just had been weird for a little while. I was the director of marketing there in a part-time role. I only work 20 hours a week, but I was told that I had control over the marketing and the direction of a lot of the brand there. Something that I wanted to, and I definitely wanted. I made it clear that this was something that I wanted to work towards when I was still working in the brewery and doing social media, making labels, doing photography, and all of that. But over the last year or so, I think that it became very clear that both sides wanted different things, and I thought that it would be best. I had proposed the idea of me going freelance for a while over there, only to be kept on and told like, okay, now we're gonna work with you on this. But it eventually became very clear, like, no, this needs to happen. So I am a freelance person now. I am meeting with them to try to continue a relationship of doing graphic design work and photography work for them, and hopefully can come to some sort of agreement on that. Because I do love that brand. We have a lot of stuff that we make that I feel very strongly for. Our Bees Squeeze over there, that is now our number one brand, was my creation. Like, it's my baby. Was, I don't know. Um, a beer that started off as a just one-off seasonal in 2022 is now our number one selling beer and has had double-digit increases in sales each of the last 2 years. And that's in an industry that, if you listen to this podcast, no, isn't doing very well. I created the name, I created the brand, I've done all the artwork for that can and brand over the years. So I hold that very close to me. I've created a lot of stuff over there visually, and I am very proud of the work that I did over there. But that the main part of my time there is gone. Hopefully, I can continue to work with them, like I said, in some shape or form. We'll see how that goes in time. But if you are out there and you would like my help, whether that be creating designs for you, labels, branding, POS, merchandise. I can help you with that. I can do photography for you if you're local, or if you want to pay for a plane ticket to come out where you are because you dig what I do. I am more than happy to do that. I can do social media management as well. So reach out to me at Mike Loves Beer on the places, and would love to talk to you. But it feels very weird that I am not employed in the beer industry, but it's a little freeing. I had texted to these guys uh, the day before my final day that it felt calming. As much as it was scary, it felt calming. I have a one gig that I've already picked up out of things, so it's nice to be able to walk into some consistent money. But you know, like I know that things are weird out there right now with money. Everything fucking costs a lot. But hey, I am a human being who loves beer, who loves food, who loves drink, who loves culture, who loves community. And if you want to work with a person who cherishes all of that and truly puts that first in their life, maybe to a fault, I can be a person for you that can help you achieve creative goals that you might have for your business that you want. So there's my fucking plug about myself and my update on my life. It felt fucking weird to do that, but that's what I needed to do.
Okay,
Kevin?
no, hold on. Before he goes, I want to not break the rules. I'm not responding to what you shared, Mike. I just want to just say what Eric Hild says to me all the time. I love and appreciate you.
Thank you.
I think it's my turn now, and if Mike can break the rules, I can too. What I want to say is that both of you talked about very personal things, and those are incredibly important. Obviously, we know that.
So Kevin's just gonna make fart noises for the next 20 minutes.
I'll be honest. I had two different things that I was going to talk about potentially. One of them was completely stupid, and in some ways, I thought I'll do the stupid one, but I don't think it tracks well. And what I want to talk about is actually something that I think tracks very much, especially with what Tim is dealing with right now, but I think even tangentially with what Mike is dealing with right now, and that's about hope. And I am wondering, and I think maybe we can talk about this. Maybe we will talk about this the second that this podcast ends. Is when are we going to allow the people who drank the Kool-Aid for Donald Trump to come back to the fold? When are we going to be okay with the people who are now realizing what a monster this man is? We saw when all this the text mess the text the Twitter or the Truth Social or whatever it was on Easter, where he was basically threatening to destroy an entire civilization. We saw Alex Jones say we need to remove this man from office. We saw Tucker Carlson. We've seen Marjorie Taylor Greene say this person has gone too far. And my question is, I'm not talking about those people, because each one of the three people I mentioned have passed the point of no return in my opinion. I'm never welcoming Alex Jones after Sandy Hook into my tent. They've poisoned that a long time ago. But when do we welcome our family members? When do we welcome our neighbors that are realizing that this was a grifter and a con man and a person who was just so enveloped in his own sense of self? When do we welcome them back and say, you were sold a bill of goods, I'm sorry you believed it, but I love you and I'm here for you? I don't know. There's tons of things that have been said and done over the years that are unforgivable in many, many instances. But these are people who thought things were going to be better. Thought it was going to be America first. It wasn't going to get us into foreign wars. I like that. Not the America first part. I'm not really keen on that, but not getting into foreign wars, I'm very, very keen on. And when are we going to be able to say, not in I told you so, but come on over. You don't have to be embarrassed. I'm not going to call you out on this. I'm not going to do it. I got you. I told you so. I'm just going to say, I love you. And let's try to work on this together. And I think one of the things that Tim said, and I'm sorry to comment on this, but it's talking about this philosophy. When are we going to do that for each other? And I think in the cynical nature of ourselves, it's really hard to do because so many bad things have been done, especially medically, especially with RFK. One of the body count on that man by the time this administration is done is going to be astronomical. But we all may make mistakes and we can do better. And if we're the kind of people that we want to stand up and pretend that we are, we will say, you're welcome back. And even if you're a die-hard Republican who believes in trickle-down economics and all things that I think have passed, but you just are a decent human being and think what we've seen is unacceptable, you're welcome back too. We can just start having debates about whether or not we should fund Medicare more. I miss those. I really, really miss those debates. I miss those conversations about the policies that you thought were really, really good for a majority of people, and I thought were really bad for the majority of people, and we could disagree. Not a unhinged maniac saying anything that came to his head because he needs to be loved and feared. We've never had that before. I hope we never have it again. If you're willing to have a dialogue, my thing is come on back. Come on back. I'm ready to say yes. Even to some of the crazies out there. And I think we have to be those people. We have to be the example. We have to care enough about humanity to say, come on, let's have a conversation again and stop calling each other evil. Donald Trump is not evil. He's unhinged. He has a mental health diagnosis that no one can do professionally because that would be unethical, but it's there. It's not about good and evil. It's about a person who is fit or unfit. And that person's unfit. And I think that and I know that Tim and Mike, you might not feel this way in your heart right now because we're all angry and we're all frustrated. And Tim has dealt with fucking one of the worst things ever in what has happened to his city. And I can imagine the bitterness and the rage and the frustration that is coursing through his veins. But I think at the heart of us, we'll say, come on back. Let's have a conversation again. Let's not pretend like we're in a fantasy world where there's a dictator that can tell you what to do and how to feel. Let's not pretend that politics is religion and you've put someone on a pedestal and said they are our God. That's where we're at. And that's what I'm thinking about the most. And I think it could do us all a lot of good.
Yep. Thank you, every one of you, all two of you, for such amazing last calls. Thank you to all of you who listen to the show. Keep on coming back and listening to the show. Love you so much. If you want to support our show, please check out our website, unitedwedrink.com, the Brands We Love page. We also have our store, unitedwedrink.com/store, with shirts, buttons, stickers, and all of that. I'm doing somber voice. I didn't even realize that until now, because this is a very special episode. I but Tim, you can actually interrupt now. Remember,
I was
this
gonna
isn't last call.
I do want you did not ask if there's plugs, but I've got two things that I want to plug.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
If you don't mind. First of all, a very good friend of mine is a very creative, talented designer, photographer. He is currently freelancing, and he is really able to help elevate your brand. If you could go ahead and reach out to Mike Loves Beer, I guarantee you he's going to help create your creative vision and bring it to life.
I thought you were
Please
talking
go
about
ahead and
me.
reach out to Kevin Abbott on no social medias. No, and the other thing that I wanted to say was
If you just shout into the ether, contact Kevin Abbott. You'll get to him.
yeah. The other thing I want to say is we talk a lot about voting with our dollars here. We talk about wanting to make sure that we are making ethical decisions with our purchasing, right? Like I don't, as a Minnesotan, it especially with friends that are employed by Target, it pains me that I'm not shopping at Target, but the decisions they've made have made me not shop at Target. Um, but if you want to spend your dollars ethically, if you are in Florida and you are looking to buy beer from a very ethical brewery owner, I am promising you that Barrel of Monks and Kevin Abbott are aligned on the most moral decisions that you can possibly make. So please go ahead and check out Barrel of Monks, because I guarantee you the dollars that you're spending on Barrel of Monks are supporting the best decisions for Floridians, just for people. So please go ahead and check out both of those people if you can.
That's incredibly
Thank you.
kind. Thank you, man.
Yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks with another new episode. I don't know where to go from there.
No, yeah, we don't need to.
Yeah.
You could plug like an old episode of Seinfeld or something. I don't.
The
Like,
contest.
Jerry Seinfeld is just such a sad person anymore. So like, I don't even want to plug him. But yeah,
Elaine is still out there. She's amazing.
yeah,
She's
I guess.
absolutely incredible.
Julia.
Yes.
Who would have thought that Julia Louis-Dreyfus would come out of Seinfeld as the most amazing person out of all of them?
That's pretty like Jason Alexander has some decent like voiceover work, but like I would probably say in today like
he never did Veep.
no,
Veep.
that's I've never seen Veep, but like I just assume by like award stuff and like critic acclaim for that, like it's probably a pretty damn good show.
Veep is
I just have like
fantastic.
500 other things that I need to watch, so I'll get to it by 2044.
Yeah, I just gotta finish up Police Academy 4 and I can move on to the rest of my.
I am without kids and wife in the house tonight, so I'm going to sign off here and go watch Police Academy 4. I don't know about you guys, but I've been hearing about it for a while. Is that the one with Bobcat Goldthwait? I don't remember.
It's the new hot fire. Everyone's talking about Police Academy 4 right now.
No,
Okay.
Bobcat Goldthwait is in Police Academy 2, Citizens on Patrol, where he becomes the gang member that actually becomes a police officer. Police Academy 4, I want to say, is Mission to Moscow. Maybe that's Police Academy 5. I don't think Police Academy 4 has Steve Guttenberg. I think that's where they moved on from Steve Guttenberg.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little...
Not to break this up, and I'm enjoying all of this, and I know we have to sign off, but I was looking, and I'm sorry I was not engaging with you guys for the last like minute or so. In the spirit of something that Tim is talking about in a passionate way, and so importantly, we need good science communication. We
Oh,
need
I thought you
who-
meant Police Academy 4 that I was talking about
in the
very
spirit of Police
passionately.
Academy 4. If there's one person I got to plug, I never do a plug. I never plug my own brewery. I never plug fucking anything. Jessica, God, I don't know her last name. Knurick? Knurick, I think it is. It's Knurick. Social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, one of the best science communicators on any social media platform, a doctor who knows so much about the things that we are talking about, so much about diagnoses, so much about woo woo and bullshit science, and debunks these things on a regular basis. If you are looking for someone to get good science communication from and to learn something about all the things that you're hearing on social media and your aunt's telling you and you're hearing from, third party people, that is a person you should be following on a regular basis. Make it someone you watch every single video that comes out on, because that's a person who knows what the fuck they're talking about. Period.
Cheers, everyone. I don't know how else to end it. But
You're good.
yeah, thanks. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.